The deep sea is Earth's final frontier. It's dark, mysterious, and full of secrets we were never meant to uncover. But sometimes curiosity does lead to discoveries that are so unsettling they leave even the bravest scientists questioning if they should have stayed hidden. Number 10. The ghost shark. Known as the ghost shark for its glowing eyes and pale, translucent body, this creature seems like it belongs in a horror story. Ghost sharks aren't actually sharks, but they're ancient relatives of rays with lineage dating back to over 400 million years. That predates even dinosaurs. Found gliding through the dark waters of the deep sea, their ghostly appearance and slow, hypnotic movement give them an eerie, almost a supernatural vibe, hence their name. Adding to their mystique, their retractable reproductive organs are located on their foreheads, which is a bizarre evolutionary feature that leaves researchers scratching their heads. Just make sure you don't scratch the ghost shark's head, or else that'd be a little awkward, wouldn't it? Number 9. MV Derbyshire. This ship was twice the size of the Titanic, but James Cameron didn't make a movie about it, so you may not have heard. Let me fill you in. MV Derbyshire was the biggest British registered merchant ship of all time to sink. She was assembled in 1976 but lost in 1980 en route from Canada to Japan. A Mayday distress call was never issued, and the ship was following proper ocean routes with weather routing companies, so they were doing all the right things on paper. So what happened? September 15th, 1980, a search began for the missing ship and of course the missing crew, but 6 days later the search was called off. Nothing was found, not a trace. The ship was declared lost forever. The sister ship of the Derbyshire ended up sinking as well in 1986 due to deck cracking, so the families then urged officials to search once again. Come 1994, the Derbyshire was eventually found. It's a good thing those families urged officials, or this mystery would have never been solved. Number 8. Anglerfish. If you've seen Finding Nemo, you'll remember the terrifying anglerfish, and guess what? They're even creepier in real life. Known for their glowing lure, which dangles like this hypnotic light to attract prey, anglerfish are the ultimate deep-sea predators. The deep-dwelling species, fittingly nicknamed sea devils, have an eerie ability to swallow prey as large as themselves. God, I need that skill. Female anglerfish can grow up to 4 feet, dwarfing the tiny males, which max out at 5.5 inches. Yep, he's not a grower, nor a shower. And here's the wildest part. When it's time to mate, the male fuses to the female, literally living off of her resources like the world's clingiest parasite. Now thankfully these creatures dwell far below the ocean surface, so they're more nightmare fuel than an actual threat to humans. But this face here, that's not one you're gonna forget. Number 7. Garbage patch. There's a lot of treasure in the sea, but unfortunately there's also lots of garbage. Probably more garbage. Humans kinda suck. I mean, look at the top of the Pacific, for example. Not even below it in the waters, but right on the top, we have something called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Now, it's not really a patch, it's more of an island. It's located safely in the North Pacific subtropical gyre, and there's basically 4 of these large systems just swirling ocean currents moving warm and cool water around. But now, they're whirlpools of garbage. A plastic bag was also found at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, so now we have the deepest piece of trash, and we have a massive island of trash. There's just trash all over, and it's all thanks to us. It's kinda hard for Ariel to sing under the sea when she's got a plastic bag wrapped around her head. That's probably not gonna help. Number 6. The Gulf of Mexico shipwreck. The Gulf of Mexico is a watery graveyard for shipwrecks, with over 4,000 scattered across its depths. Now when you steal buckets of gold and try and escape on a dinghy, odds are you're probably gonna sink. And this is what happened many times. When Exxon oil workers discovered a sunken ship 2,600 feet beneath the waves, excitement of course ran high. They quickly alerted the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, which set out to investigate said wreck. But from the start, the mission seemed almost cursed. Equipment repeatedly failed, the submersible intended for the dive ended up malfunctioning right before deployment, lucky it didn't happen down there, and video feeds and sonar systems would always cut out unexpectedly. Even when the Navy got involved with a research sub, nothing was working. The robotic arms were too small and they couldn't even properly explore the wreck. I don't know, something about that ship didn't want to be disturbed. Number 5. Vampire squid. The vampire squid is the last surviving member of its order and has similarities with both the squid as well as the octopus, which might make it a contender for most threatening animals on this list. Also, it's called a vampire squid, so obviously something's a little afoot here. 2 of these creatures somehow meeting in the middle, just like a jellyfish. The vampire squid has a gelatinous body that helps it move quicker through the depths of the sea. Now the vampire squid is covered in light-producing organs called photophores, which they're then able to use in a way that produces these disorienting disorienting flashes as it confuses their prey. Vampire disco attack, bam. That's the deep sea for you. While the vampire squid doesn't have ink to blast out at its enemies, it does have the ability to shoot out bioluminescent mucus. Yeah, talk about alien, glowy puke coming at you. That's almost worse than ink, right? That's way worse than ink. Also, the squid is able to regenerate its arms, so I think this all goes to say that if you were in a fight with a vampire squid, I really hope you came prepared because, he sure did. Number 4, blobfish. Imagine a saggy, droopy face staring back at you with an expression of eternal misery. That right there is the blobfish, an unfortunate looking deep sea creature that's found off the coasts of Australia and New Zealand. Its unsettling appearance isn't the natural state, but rather the result of being brought to the surface. That's why we leave things where they are. In its high pressure habitat, it has a firmer structure, but once removed, its gelatinous body collapses, earning it the title of world's ugliest animal. That's pretty mean. Now, despite its haunting appearance, the blobfish is completely harmless, but it does serve as a stark reminder of how alien deep sea life can appear to us here on the surface. Number 3, giant isopods. Big nope on this one. I do not like deep sea anything. Just look at these giant isopods and tell me that your palms aren't sweating. Mine certainly are. These massive crustaceans can grow up to 15 inches long, not the biggest deep sea creature, sure, but still terrifying in the bug world. They're fast swimmers and they can latch onto you. Yeah, I'm never swimming again. Thank you, no thank you. Their size comes from deep sea gigantism, an evolutionary trend where deep sea creatures grow way bigger than their shallow water cousins. Now, scientists think it might be due to cool temperatures that increase cell size and lifespan. And giant isopods are scavengers. They scuttle over their many creepy legs to feast on leftovers from other predators. Just imagine one of these barreling towards you. Ugh, I'm out. Let's move on. Number 2, comb jellies. Comb jellies are some of the most mesmerizing creatures you'll ever see, thanks to their shimmering rainbow-like displays. This dazzling effect comes from their combs, these rows of fused cilia that act like tiny oars that would propel them gracefully through the deep waters of the Mariana Trench. Now, as the cilia move, they scatter light in all directions, creating this brilliant iridescent glow that looks almost otherworldly. These jellies are the largest creatures with these unique combs, setting them apart from other ocean dwellers. See, unlike other many jelly-like creatures, comb jellies don't sting you. Instead, they use their single pair of tentacles, often appearing branched like fishing lines, to skillfully capture prey. Both elegant and efficient, these deep-sea marvels are a testament to nature's scary creativity. And finally, number 1, the mysterious sonar blip. During a routine research expedition in the deep ocean, scientists that were monitoring sonar devices detected something extraordinary and also completely unexplainable. The sonar picked up an enormous object moving rapidly through the water. Now, its size and speed didn't match any known marine species at the time, which of course left researchers scratching their heads. The mysterious blip appeared to be larger than a whale, yet it moved with a speed and agility that's uncharacteristic of any creature that size. Speculation ran wild, with some suggesting it could be a living megalodon, that legendary prehistoric shark that we thought went extinct over 3 million years ago. Others proposed it might be an undiscovered species just lurking in the ocean's depths. Now, despite the lack of visual confirmation, the sonar data was compelling enough to keep experts puzzling over the encounter.
The Siphonophore is a crazy piece of work to which some of them can grow the length of a blue whale. They take the cake for the largest creature on Earth and can reach up to 150 feet in length. With a total of 175 species of this kind, they are scattered through all the Earth's oceans. But that doesn't mean you'll find any species in any part. Some are found in the waters of Portugal, nicknamed the man o' war for how venomous it is. Despite this alien-looking thing looking like a singular animal, it's actually a colony of individual organisms called zooids. Each zooid has their own specific function for survival, but are genetically identical to each other. Some will focus on feeding and digesting, while others focus on movement, swimming, or reproducing. Since zooids cannot survive on their own as a singular, they band together and depend on each other's help as they form a body. How this works is that a first singular zooid is hatched from a fertilized egg, and then once it develops its growth hormones, it then begins to create more zooids with itself. Nasty, wicked cool. These 3 submarine divers got a lovely surprise from a visit of a deep sea female shark. This video is more phenomenal than scary, as it starts out with the shark rolling around on the ocean floor, causing an immense amount of debris to fly around the submarine. When she emerges from this though, they get an amazing shot of her going over with prey in her mouth, really showcasing how large this girl is. Everyone in the submarine is just in awe, rightfully so. She then starts to take a huge interest in the machine, coming up closer again as she observes the submarine, checking out some of the gadgets it has, even trying to nibble at some of them. My favorite shot from this video, however, is when they get a clear image of her eye. How many of you can say you've made eye contact with a shark? It even rolls to the back of her head as she swims away. This lovely lady is known as the blunt-nosed 6-gill shark, or the cow shark if you want to be mean about it. They are, sadly, listed as near threatened by the International Union for Conservation of Nature because they are often exploited as a sport fish due to their popularity. The vampire squid. No, sorry, it doesn't drink the blood of its prey, but rather it was given the name because of its lovely dark red or jet black color. You can find these little guys anywhere in the tropical oceans and temperate waters, if you're willing to travel down 2,000 or 3,000 feet below. Despite only being able to grow up to 12 inches in length, these guys can projectile themselves the length of 2 bodies per second by spraying a jet of water through their mantle. They were first discovered by Carl Chun in 1903, who had an ambition to prove there was sea life past 550 meters below. If only he were here today. They have 8 arms that are connected by webbing, and are able to regenerate if they get into a bit of a scuffle with other sea life. Half of these 8 arms are covered in suckers, and also have small hairs on these legs as well to help detect their prey. It has to wait for food to come out, since it sadly doesn't have feeding tentacles like other cephalopods, but thankfully only needs to eat twice a week. Their eyes are also considered to be the largest in comparison to their body size of any animal in the world. Sometimes marine life doesn't really care and will in fact attack your equipment. An extremely rare bioluminescence deep sea squid, known as the Dana octopus squid, was caught going in for a researcher's camera thinking it was food. The footage was caught with only being below by 1 kilometer down, and all that the crew was really aiming for was to observe the biodiversity of the sea floor. This squid is one of the largest known deep sea squids, with this specific one being 75 centimeters long, just under a meter, but can grow up to 7 feet in length. One of the scientists stated, descended on our camera assuming it was prey and tried to startle it with its huge bioluminescence headlights. It then proceeded to wrap its arms around one of our other cameras, which in turn captured the encounter in even greater detail. I think we were very lucky to have witnessed this. This squid is not only popular for its size, but rather the photophores it produces, making it the largest light source known to be in the sea as of right now. Truly beautiful, yet terrifying at the same time. This video was taken in the Gulf of Mexico with an ROV, a remotely operated vehicle that most underwater explorers used when they're exploring the deep blue sea. It's a little grainy, but we can still make out some sort of jellyfish-like creature making a very creepy appearance. I'm not sure what the researchers were doing in this video with the box, but as they pull away, some crazy-looking tentacle creature makes its way over to it in a rather aggressive manner. If it is a jellyfish, it's definitely not one I've ever seen before. Its body is circular from one angle, but as it rotates we see that it's actually completely flat rather than spherical. Going through the comments, people seem to agree that it's what's known as a clinging jellyfish, and are usually found in the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. We don't have to worry about seeing them at beaches though, since they prefer a more calm and solitude environment. The internet is going crazy trying to decipher what type of jellyfish this is. Majority are saying that this is a comb jellyfish, but its odd shape at the beginning, looking very alien-like, has people fighting one another in the comments section. But as I further read into comb jellyfish, they might just be correct. Some are known to have round bellies and even tentacles like the one in this video has, but also makes them a part of a different family than the average jellyfish. They get their names because they use these things called cilia, which are little hair extensions on their body that help them swim, and also give the appearance of a brush and comb. It's really hard to see it in the one on this video, especially with its deep black color, but we do get a moment of the comb jelly lighting up in a rainbow effect, which the cilias along with its body are producing. They do this when they are obviously threatened. I mean, I would too if I had a giant submarine camera in my face. In the end of this video, people also argued if it was accidentally torn, to shreds or it produced its own ink. I believe the latter because this species of jellyfish can ink as well. A weird crossbreed of jellyfish and squid. These freaky little guys are found all over the world, ranging from the tropics all the way to the poles, but surprisingly not in fresh water. The deep sea lizardfish, one of the world's deepest living apex predators. These guys are ruthless because not only will they just eat about anything, they won't hesitate to nibble on someone they know. They are also hermaphrodites, having both male and female parts, to which scientists are speculating that it's because of their low population. However, when they do breed, they seem to have a maximum cap at how many they will produce, keeping just enough to have the species thrive, but not over the top to where finding food becomes an issue. Interesting. There really isn't that much known about these fish, as they just typically like to hang around on the ocean floors, going as far deep as 3,500 meters. They will literally just sit on the ocean floor as they wait for their prey to come by, trapping them with multiple rows of extremely sharp and long needle-like teeth. Maybe it's because this video was taken in 1998, but the eerie blue lighting does not help its case, making it all the more terrifying as its glowing eyes glare right back at you. The Goblin Shark, also nicknamed the most unhinged, ugliest creature to ever exist. Sorry, that was personal. These crazy looking things are found in the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans, but the most common sightings are off the coast of Japan. One cool thing about them is that they are living fossils from over 100 million years ago. They come from the family Mitsukuridae and are the only living representative that comes from that ancient lineage. They also have some pink coloring on them due to their translucent skin, making their blood the reason why they give off such a pretty color. And much like humans and our eyes, they grow into their noses, so they are born with quite the big honker until they reach adulthood. The reason why they're on this list though is because of how they eat. When they come up to their prey, their jaw literally unhinges and launches forward, its skin stretching as it reaches out to eat its meal. Thankfully though, these are found deep below the surface, as deep as 4,300 feet, one even being recorded at exactly 4,490 feet below. The adults usually like to hang far below more than the younger generation.
What are we looking at here? When I first saw this thumbnail, I thought this was a fishing net, but no, this is some kind of living organism. This incredible piece of footage was shared by Tahoe Deep on YouTube. The creature is some kind of siphonophore, a class of marine animals that contains 175 species that we know of anyway. As for exactly what species this one is, we're not sure. From what I've seen, siphonophores can look vastly different between species. What we do know is that this video was captured in the Gulf of Mexico, about 4,000 feet deep, or just over 1,219 meters deep. I've never seen a creature like this in my life. It reminds me of one of those old school iTunes visualizers or like Windows screensavers, where you'd have like a trippy animation going on, kinda. A very odd, obscure reference, but I'm sure some of you will get it. Sperm whales and giant squids, some of the largest animals in the ocean. Footage of either is incredible to see, but how about the aftermath of a battle between the two? This footage was shared by EcoWatch Discovery Mauritius. As you can clearly see, a group of whales are coming back from a hunt, and one of them has the remains of a giant squid in its mouth. Getting up closer, you can see that its tentacle is still wrapped around the whale. It's pretty incredible footage. It's rare to see video of giant squids at all, let alone one in the mouth of a massive sized sperm whale. Turns out these animals fight a lot. They're both huge predators that are often locked in battles for survival. Based on this footage, I'd be placing my bets on these sperm whales. At our number 3 spot, we have the Mariana Trench Meg. Now this video is very much genuine, and I just find it really creepy. The idea of being lost deep beneath the sea and having this nasty thing creep up on you is pretty spine-tingling. This footage here was shared to YouTube by Deep Sea Oddities. It shows footage taken by equipment from a Japanese marine biology study about a mile underwater in the Mariana Trench. We see a really creepy looking shark swim into frame. It almost looks like a zombie shark or something to me. Nothing cute about this guy. I just kind of cringe watching the footage actually. It just gets too close to the camera for comfort, you know? Now apparently that's a baited cage in the frame there that it's swimming up to, which makes this shark pretty damn large. It doesn't look like it's been missing any meals. All I can say is I'm glad we don't live in the world of SeaQuest. Bet you weren't expecting to see a SeaQuest reference on this video. Now it turns out this creepy looking creature is actually called a Greenland shark. Here's another footage of a Greenland shark. Definitely an eerie looking animal, but incredibly fascinating. First off, these things are huge. One of the largest sharks in the ocean. They can grow up to about 21 feet or 6.4 meters long, sometimes more, and they can weigh over 2,200 pounds. Already terrifying. But here's the part that totally blows my mind. These sharks can live incredibly long. In fact, they're the longest living known vertebrate on Earth, with a lifespan of 250 to 500 years. That means there could be a Greenland shark out there right now that was alive well before the United States was founded. As for what they eat, they're apex predators. They hunt fish, seals, and basically whatever they can find. They live in some seriously deep water, around 650 to 3,000 feet down, and sometimes even deeper. So they've been difficult animals to study and are rarely ever seen. Take a look at this strange object flying by the camera. Just what the hell was that? This is a very strange video. It was captured by a remotely operated vehicle back in 2002 off the coast of Senriku, Japan. The thing passes by way too fast to determine what it is. It's not even clear if this is a living creature or some kind of object. What we're looking at here could be a USO, an unidentified submerged object. It's sleek looking, almost like a disc, and it's incredibly bright, so much that you can't make out any detail on it, if there even is any at all. So could this just be a ray of light? Well, it doesn't appear to be, for one. I mean, it does look like a solid object or organism. Plus, this footage was taken 421 meters down, or just over 1,381 feet. Not super deep, but enough that some ray of light from above wouldn't penetrate the water like this. According to the NOAA, or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, light may be detected as far as 1,000 meters down in the ocean, but there is rarely any significant light beyond 200 meters. So, was this just a very fast fish, or something else entirely? This is a really cool piece of footage. Just what is this creature attacking this submersible? The footage was taken at a depth of around 1,280 meters, or 4,200 feet. Something had clearly tried to latch onto the vehicle. As for what it is, well, we get a better look moments later. What you're looking at here is a flasher squid. Not much of a mystery why it's called a flasher squid. They have two photophores at the tips of their heads that flash. These are one of the largest squids in the world and are among the biggest known bioluminescent creatures on Earth, reaching lengths of up to 7.5 feet or 2.3 meters. They're very rarely spotted, which just makes this footage even more incredible. This deep sea diver was bitten by a shark, but an unlikely ally came to his rescue. Take a look. Here we see a shark latched onto this dude's leg. Now, luckily it's a very small shark, but I don't think there's any such thing as a good or even okay shark attack. Nobody wants this. Attached to the small shark though is a grouper, much bigger than the shark. Was the grouper just glad to find an easy meal? Yeah, but I'd like to believe that it saw an innocent man being attacked and swooped in to help. Then we watch as it pulls the shark off the diver and swims into the shadows to enjoy its meal. Now this is an absolute beast of a creature. This is a blunt-nosed 6-gill shark captured on video in 2019, but if I didn't know any better, based on that tail, I'd think it was the Loch Ness Monster. So OceanX, in partnership with Cape Eleuthera Institute and a team of scientists, managed to make history by tagging a deep-sea shark from a submarine for the very first time. They were after a pretty elusive creature, the blunt-nosed 6-gill shark. This shark is ancient, really ancient. It's been around longer than most dinosaurs. The lead scientist on the mission was Dr. Dean Grubbs from the Florida State University's Marine Lab. He's been working on studying these sharks for years, but until now, the only way to tag one was by bringing it up to the surface. Not exactly the most ideal way to track an animal that spends its life in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean. But this time, they did something no one had done before. They managed to tag the creature while it was still deep underwater using a submarine. It's a huge step forward in studying these deep sea predators, and now they have a way to track their movements without disturbing their environment too much. Pretty amazing and an absolutely wild piece of footage. What you're looking at here is not the tripod alien from War of the Worlds. This is a Magna squid, or a big fin squid, captured in the Central Pacific Ocean back in 2019 at a depth of 1,092 meters or 3,582 feet, courtesy of the Schmidt Ocean Institute. Big fin squids are just nuts looking. As you can see, its arms and tentacles are way longer than its body. They can stretch out 13 to 26 feet or 4 to 8 meters. These things also move in a really weird way. It doesn't really swim like other squids, darting through the water with speed. Instead, it sort of floats along with its arms stretched out, almost like it's just hovering or gliding. And since it lives so far down, way deeper than most submarines can reach, these creatures are hard to study. That's why not much is known about them. But whenever it's caught on camera, it always leaves people a little freaked out. It's not just the long arms, it's the way it moves and just how generally alien it looks. Alright, now this creature wasn't filmed by a submarine, but it was just too creepy looking not to show. So apparently this horrid looking monster is called a purple eel gobi. Now at first I thought this was a creature with multiple heads, which would have been awesome. That is not the case though, sadly. This is just a group of them gathered together. Still though, these things look like they crawled out of the upside down. They also look like they'd crawl into your body and eat you from the inside, but luckily they're more interested in small fish and crustaceans. Early in 2024, an amazing deep-sea expedition uncovered possibly over 100 new species off the coast of Chile. Between January 8th and February 11th, researchers aboard the Schmidt Ocean Institute's research vessel Falkor 2 explored the seafloor. The expedition, called Seamounts of the Southeast Pacific, focused on underwater mountains, or seamounts, in 3 main areas. The Nazca and Salas y Gomez ridges, which stretch 1,800 miles from Chile to eastern Island, and the Juan Fernandez and Nazca Desventuradas marine parks. During the expedition, the team mapped the ocean floor and discovered 4 previously unknown seamounts. The largest was 11,581 feet, or 3,530 meters above the seafloor, and just to put that into perspective, that's more than 4 times the height of the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building. And as I said before, they also discovered more than 100 previously undiscovered species. There were all sorts of corals, sponges, sea urchins, mollusks, and crustaceans. Lead scientist Javier Salinas, a marine biologist, said, "We far exceeded our hopes on this expedition. The amount we found, especially for some groups like sponges, is mind-blowing." What you're looking at here is a comb jelly. As alien as it looks though, it may actually be able to give us some insight into the human brain. A recent study funded by the US National Science Foundation has uncovered how ocean creatures, specifically comb jellies, have adapted to survive in radically different environments, i.e. shallow waters versus the extreme depths of the ocean. The research revealed that deep sea and shallow water comb jellies have different types of lipid molecules in their cell membranes. These lipids help the creature's cells stay stable in their environments. For deep sea comb jellies, the high pressure of the ocean floor keeps their cell membranes intact, but if brought to the surface, the lack of pressure causes their membranes to break down and the jellyfish basically turn into goo. On the flip side, shallow water comb jellies have membranes that are too rigid to function properly under the extreme pressures of the deep sea. So what does this mean for us? Well, the deep sea comb jellies membranes are made up of plasmalogens, a type of lipid which is also found in the human brain. In humans, a loss of plasmalogens has been linked to diseases like Alzheimer's. So the researchers are hoping that with more research, they'll be able to better understand these lipids' role in our brains, and by extension, how diseases of the brain develop. Deep sea mining was really called into question this past summer. Researchers found that oxygen is being produced deep in the ocean from small metallic nodules on the sea floor. This is a pretty amazing find because before we thought that oxygen was only produced through photosynthesis, which relies on sunlight, of course. Professor Andrew Sweetman, who led the study, said for aerobic life to begin on the planet there had to be oxygen. But we now know that there is oxygen produced in the deep sea, where there is no light. The discovery came while the team was studying the potential effects of deep-sea mining in the Clarion-Clipperton Zone between Hawaii and Mexico. The nodules they sampled had an electric charge high enough to split seawater into hydrogen and oxygen, which Sweetman described as, quote, effectively batteries in a rock. So obviously this finding makes deep-sea mining more controversial than it already is. On one hand, some think mining the ocean floor is really important for gathering minerals that are needed for a transition into more green energy, but a lot of oceanographers are worried that we just don't fully understand the impact this could have on deep-sea ecosystems, and that's becoming even more apparent with this recent find. Also in 2024, 6 new species of carnivorous sea sponges were discovered. Marine biologists using an ROV, remotely operated vehicle, found the 6 new species off the coast of Western Australia. The sponges belong to the Cladio something family. Just put it up on screen, Vincent. I can't pronounce it. The sponges belong to this family here that I'm not going to bother trying to pronounce, and this discovery puts the total number of this family in Australia at 41. I cannot pronounce the names of these things individually either, but we can show you some of them. There's this one, then you got this one here, and you can't forget about this guy. They were found in 2 deep-sea locations, the Bremer Canyon system, where one of the new species was discovered, and Cape Range Canyon, where the other 5 were found. Dr. Jim Thompson, CEO of Queensland Museum, said, "These new-to-science species enhance our knowledge of this family and highlight the importance of ongoing exploration and conservation of marine biodiversity." Now, what used to happen is scientists would collect carnivorous sponges by trawling the ocean floor, but because of advancements in ROV technology, now they can just look at these creatures in their natural habitats, all from the comfort of their office desks, which is pretty incredible. In March of 2024, a 45-day deep-sea expedition to the Clarion-Clipperton Zone between Mexico and Hawaii uncovered some very bizarre but fascinating creatures too. Thomas Dahlgren, a marine ecologist from the University of Gothenburg, was part of the team aboard the British research vessel and stated, quote, "These areas are the Earth's least explored. It's estimated that only 1 out of 10 animal species living down here has been described by science." The team explored the abyssal plains, deep-sea regions at depths of 3,500 to 5,500 meters. Despite covering more than half of the Earth's surface, we really don't know much about the life down there. Dahlgren described the excitement of discovering new species like it was the 18th century all over again. The animals in these extreme depths survive on very little food, mostly organic debris called marine snow falling from the surface, so the population is mostly made up of filter feeders like sponges and sediment feeders like sea cucumbers. The team used an ROV to capture footage and collect samples. Some of their coolest discoveries were bowl-shaped sponges and a pink sea cucumber known as a sea pig. Dahlgren went on to say these sea cucumbers were some of the largest animals found on this expedition. They act as ocean floor vacuum cleaners. The team also photographed a cup-shaped glass sponge thought to live up to 15,000 years. What you're looking at here is an object used to sample water deep in the ocean. It's called a Conductivity Temperature and Depth Rosette, or CTD. It was recently used to study the ocean's twilight zone, a deep, dark region 200 to 1,000 meters below the surface. Scientists found that this area is not only low in light, but also iron deficient, a condition that affects the growth of bacteria. So to survive, these bacteria produce special molecules called siderophores, which help them gather tiny amounts of iron from the surrounding water. The study focused on the Pacific Ocean, setting out to see how these bacteria adjust to the harsh environment. Tim Conway, an associate professor of chemical oceanography, explained, "Understanding the organisms that facilitate carbon uptake in the ocean is important for understanding the impacts of climate change. When organic matter from the surface ocean descends to the deep ocean, it acts as a biological pump that removes carbon from the atmosphere and stores it in seawater and sediments." The researchers collected water samples during an expedition from Alaska to Tahiti Tahiti and were surprised by their findings. Not only did they discover high levels of siderophores in surface waters, but they also found them in the twilight zone, an area where iron was expected to have very little impact on the growth of bacteria. Conway went on to say, unlike in surface waters, we did not expect to find siderophores in the ocean's twilight zone. This discovery is helping them understand the ocean's role in carbon storage. This year, scientists discovered all these ecosystems in the volcanic caves under hydrothermal vents on the seafloor. During a 30-day expedition aboard the Schmidt Ocean Institute's research vessel Falkor 2, the team explored an undersea volcano along the East Pacific Rise where two tectonic plates meet. The area is known for its hydrothermal vents, which are underwater openings where seawater and hot magma combine to create these natural hot springs. Around these vents, sea life like tube worms, mussels, and bacteria live in the extreme conditions. But what the researchers didn't expect to find were large communities living in caves below these vents. Using the remotely operated vehicle Sebastian, they discovered caves filled with giant tube worms, some reaching up to over 1.5 feet long, along with snails and other animals. Dr. Sabine Kallner, a marine biologist involved in the study, called it, quote, mind-blowing to see animals living beneath the vents. And for years, scientists have studied vent ecosystems, but life below them was mostly a mystery. This year, scientists continued researching the possibility of a hidden ocean deep beneath our feet, and they may have gotten closer than ever to the truth. About 400 miles below the Earth's surface, there is a massive reservoir of water trapped in a rock called ringwoodite. While scientists knew that water could be stored inside the mantle rocks, they never imagined it could exist in such a mysterious form. Instead of being a solid liquid or gas, the water is held in a sponge-like structure in the rock. Geophysicist Steve Jacobson, who is part of the research team, explained, the ringwoodite is like a sponge soaking up water. There's something very special about the crystal structure of ringwoodite that allows it to attract hydrogen and trap water. The study, titled Dehydration Melting at the Top of the Lower Mantle, showed that this water could make up a big amount of the Earth's total water supply. Scientists found the hidden water by studying seismic waves from earthquakes, which revealed that the waves were interacting with the water trapped in ringwoodite. And here's something really nuts. If this rock contains just 1% water, it would mean the Earth has 3 times as much water deep below the surface as all the oceans combined. Well, this is exciting. This news just came out the other day. In the waters off the Solomon Islands, there is a sea creature so massive it could be seen from space. In fact, it's one of the largest living organisms on Earth, a colossal coral colony. Discovered by a team of researchers and filmmakers, this coral is roughly the size of 2 basketball courts. Unlike most coral reefs, which are made up of different colonies, this one is an individual organism made up of millions of tiny animals called polyps. The species is Pavona clavus, and its size and slow growth suggests it's been around for centuries. Underwater photographer Manu Sanfelix, who first saw it last month, was in awe, saying, quote, it's a dream to see something unique like this. When Napoleon was alive, this thing was here, end quote. Before this discovery, the largest known coral was in American Samoa, measuring about 22 meters wide, but as marine conservation expert Stacy Jupiter points out, humans have only surveyed about 5% of the planet's marine realm. That means there could still be larger corals hidden out in uncharted waters. What you're looking at here is a newly discovered creature. Again, news about this one just came out the other day. In the Monterey Canyon off California, marine biologist Bruce Robison made a discovery back in 2000. While exploring with robotic vehicles, he came across a strange gelatinous blob with a giant hood, finger-like projections, and colorful internal organs. Fast forward nearly 25 years, and Robison, along with colleague Stephen Haddock, which is a great name for someone who studies fish, they have finally solved the mystery. They've identified this bizarre creature as a brand new type of nudibranch, or sea slug. Now, unlike other sea slugs that crawl along the ocean floor though, this one floats. Looks a lot more like a jellyfish. Even more astonishing, this new nudibranch can jet backward by expelling water from its hood. The hood, as it turns out, is like a Venus flytrap, capable of expanding and contracting to trap its prey. The creature is also bioluminescent and has both male and female reproductive organs. A pretty fascinating little creature. These are recently discovered octopus species. Roughly 2 miles beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean near Costa Rica, scientists found 4 brand new species of octopus during expeditions in June and December of last year. It all started when researchers spotted pink octopus hatchlings coming out from their eggs at a place known as El Dorado Hill. Jorge Cortez Nunez, a researcher from the University of Costa Rica, said it was unexpected to find so many species of octopus in a small area, first, and second, at 3,000 meters depth. In June, researchers using a remotely operated vehicle named Sebastian found 2 octopus nurseries around hydrothermal springs on the sea floor. They discovered that these octopuses seemed to prefer the warm waters from the vents, which helps shorten their long incubation period. The warm water gives the eggs a better chance of surviving in the cold, dark depths. One of the new species was even given an unofficial nickname, the Dorado octopus, after the spot where it was found. The species has short arms and small eyes, similar to the pearl octopus found off California. The other species had bigger eyes and longer arms. The 4th species is especially mysterious, with bumpy pale skin and a strange row of suckers on each arm. In total, about 310 deep-sea octopus specimens were collected. What you're looking at here is a recently discovered species of fish in China. You'll notice that it doesn't have eyes. They kind of look like raw chicken cutlets or something else that I can't really describe on here. And those dark patches that you see, those are its internal organs. Deep in an underground river in southern China, scientists found these blind pink fish with no eyes. They were swimming in the dark depths of a cave system in Guangxi when researchers first encountered them during surveys between 2019 and 2024. They were on the hunt for Chinese karst loaches, but quickly realized that this fish didn't match any known species. After studying it, the team confirmed that they had discovered a new species. This is the overly complicated scientific name on screen now, so I'll use the nickname Dachshund Chinese karst loach. These tiny fish are only about an inch long and have elongated bodies with no scales. They also have wide heads, narrow mouths, and whisker-like thingies on their heads, but again, no eyes. Researchers believe this species, like others in the area, lives in deep caves with underground rivers and is rarely seen by people. In November of last year, anglers off the coast of Pakistan reeled in a strange catch, a quote, torpedo-shaped predator with teeth on its tongue. At first they thought it was a regular fish, but researchers Sherkan Panwara and Imtiaz Kashani soon realized they'd actually found something new. And after examining these fish in the lab, they discovered not one, but 2 new species. The first was Brachycentron blotchy, or the blotchy cobia. These predators are about 3 feet long, weigh around 8 pounds, and have small eyes, pointed snouts, and tiny teeth on their jaws, the roof of their mouths, and yes, even their tongues. Inside their stomachs, they found a mix of small fish, crustaceans, and cephalopods. Second species, Brachycentron marchiensis, or the macron cobia, is smaller, about 2.5 feet long, and weighs about 6 pounds. It has a short, pointed head, small teeth, and a greenish coloring with a gray band running along its side. Its stomach contained mostly digested material and some crab parts. How's this for an animal name? The night-armored catfish. Pretty cool, but does it live up to its name? Well, this is one right here. Divers in northern Brazil were exploring the Xingju River, hoping to find some Asacu preto, a thorny black fish often sold in the aquarium trade. Well, it turns out these fish hadn't been documented by science yet. After teaming up with local fishermen and digging through museum collections, scientists realized that this was a brand new species which they named Pseudacanthicus nictos, or the night-armored catfish. These fish can grow up to 10 inches long and have completely black eyes, forked teeth, and their bodies are covered in armor-like plates and thorny spikes. Living in the murky depths of the river, they're usually found around submerged logs, sometimes as deep as 65 feet. As you could probably tell, they're carnivores, feeding on small aquatic animals. They're also very territorial. The males can get very aggressive, especially when sharing space with other males. Off the coast of Belize, anglers unknowingly caught a new species of shark between 2016 and 2019. First they thought they'd just landed another hammerhead, but something about the shark's unique shovel-shaped heads made scientists take a closer look. And after analyzing the shark's body shape, skeleton, and DNA, researchers realized these were part of a completely new species, the shovelbill shark. These small sharks, measuring up to 3 feet 4 inches long, have these very unique, flat, shovel-looking heads. They're found in coastal waters, estuaries, coral reefs, and seagrass beds from Belize all the way to Brazil. They're often caught by anglers, and experts warn that they may already be highly threatened. As co-author of the study, Damian Chapman said, "It is tragic that we have only just recognized that this species exists, and we are already running against the clock to prevent its extinction." Yeah, that is very sad, especially because these sharks are kind of cute, you know? Off the coast of Saudi Arabia, researchers exploring coral reefs discovered this tiny, really upset-looking fish, and honestly, I think if I looked like this, I would also be in a pretty bad mood all the time. While diving in the Red Sea, they released clove oil into an underwater cave to sedate the fish inside, and a small dark red goby floated to the surface. At first, they weren't sure what species it was, and after several sightings and a few more catches, they figured out why. This was not a species they'd ever seen before. This little fish, only about half an inch long, had a severely curved mouth that gave it this sort of grumpy look. Researchers named it the grumpy dwarf goby because of this permanently unhappy looking facial expression. The fish is incredibly rare, with only 10 specimens found during extensive collections along the Saudi Arabian coast, said the researchers. They live in small caves, rocky overhangs, or crevices about 32 to 100 feet below the surface. Again, in the caves of southern China, researchers discovered a fish which they'd named Liu's cave loach, a new species swimming through heavily polluted water. The creatures caught the attention of scientists visiting the area in 2023. Spelled out for you here is their scientific name, but again, they're also called Liu's cave loach for short. They can grow up to 2.5 inches long. They have elongated bodies covered in tiny scales with bright yellow fins. Their snouts are lined with whiskers, almost like a catfish, and their eyes have a yellowish hue. They live in underground rivers and cave pools, but don't show the usual traits of cave-dwelling species. They were also found breeding in a cave pond, despite the water being heavily polluted from nearby sugar factories and duck farms. So far, Liu's cave loaches have only been found in the caves of Yifeng District, Guangxi, a province in southern China near the Vietnam border. Deep beneath the surface of the ocean, researchers have discovered 3 brand new species of sea stars living in some of the most remote and bizarre environments on Earth. The sea stars were found thousands of feet below the surface at methane seeps in underwater valleys using remote-controlled vehicles during surveys between 2003 and 2018. One of the new species showing up on screen in text right now because I don't have a week to learn how to pronounce that. Anyway, it was discovered off the coast of Costa Rica about 3,200 feet down. With flower-like patterns, small plates on its back, these creatures move along the seafloor using tube feet that extend down each arm. Another species, Hymonostella davidalani, also found in Costa Rica, looks similar but has thorny, elongated spines along the edge of its body. The third species, Cayman Ostella lorisae, has short spines covered in thick skin, and interestingly, all mature specimens looked identical. These deep sea stars seem to live around stuff that sinks to the bottom of the ocean, like sunken wood, which gives them shelter and food. And researchers still aren't sure if the sea stars eat only the wood or if they have other food sources down there. Well, this thing looks creepy. Earlier this year, a team of researchers from China set out on an expedition to the northwestern Pacific Ocean to explore the depths around the Caroline Plate, an area off the coast of the Philippines. They weren't diving themselves, but instead used an underwater robot to explore the area and collect tiny creatures from the ocean floor. And when the robot pulled up a sample from a seamount, among the tiny critters they found was a pregnant amphipod, a type of shrimp-like creature that's just a few millimeters long. But this wasn't like any amphipod they'd ever seen. this was a brand new species. Now been dubbed Esoris carolinus, it's an interesting but again very creepy looking creature. Good thing it's so small. The eyes in particular were noted as being large and very well pigmented, which helped it stand out among the other species that live in these deep waters. And here's the really interesting part. When the researchers looked inside its body, they found 9 baby amphipods growing inside her. This footage here was captured in 2015, a never-before-seen species of squid. So a group of researchers from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, Guillermo Helmholtz Center for Ocean Research Kiel, and the University of South Florida teamed up for an expedition in the Gulf of California off Mexico's west coast. Using a remotely operated vehicle, the team was able to dive as deep as 8,000 feet without ever leaving the surface and without disturbing the creature's environment. The team managed to capture a large squid on camera, but soon they noticed something strange about this one. The squid was carrying dozens of giant eggs, around 30 to 40 of them, each about half an inch across. Now, squids of the species they thought this mother was, called gonatids, usually carry eggs that are only about a fifth of an inch in diameter, so these were much bigger. They'd never seen eggs this large in any gonatid squid before, and there's no other squid known to carry eggs of this size. So the researchers figured there was a very good chance they'd discovered a brand new species altogether. Pictured here is a brand new species of fish found in Africa. Earlier this year in Zambia, a strange creature was spotted swimming through a river, heading straight for a bridge. Scientists pulled the creature from the water, at first having no idea what they just found, while it turned out they discovered a brand new species. The team had been in the middle of a project studying a group of fish called nanocharax, more commonly known as darters. They were looking at preserved specimens collected from rivers in South Africa when something odd started to stand out. The fish from a few specific rivers, mostly caught in 2005, had a distinct pattern that was different from the usual darters they were used to. These fish had a unique scale pattern and a banded coloring that immediately caught the researchers' attention. And after further investigation, they realized that they'd uncovered a completely new species dubbed Nanocharax skeltoni, or Skelton's darter fish. They decided to name the species after Paul Harvey Skelton, a renowned professor at the South African Institute for Aquatic Biodiversity. A study came out this past April about a brand new species of jellyfish discovered off the coast of Florida, pictured here. Peter Schuchert and Richard Collins carried out 91 nighttime scuba dives near Palm Beach over the course of years, and they found some pretty cool stuff, like, just some never before seen jellyfish, for example. After photographing the creatures and capturing 2 of them, they took a closer look and realized they'd found a new species which was soon dubbed Zancleopsis grandis, or the large Zancleopsis jellyfish. These things are just over an inch tall with tentacles stretching more than 2 inches in length. The body itself has a long, narrow shape that shifts as the jellyfish moves through the water. The researchers named it grandis because of the relatively large size and the big bulbs on its tentacles, and just like other jellyfish, Zancleopsis grandis uses jet propulsion to move. It sucks in water and then squirts it back out through a small opening, propelling itself forward through the water. Kinda crazy that these new things were found in Florida. As Collins put it, part of the work we are doing is to demonstrate and document the amazing oceanic biodiversity here in Florida. Florida waters are well studied relative to most of the world's oceans, and yet there is still so much to learn and discover. And yeah, that is crazy because Florida, right? And then you got all this vast water over so much of the earth. Like, who knows what crazy stuff could be out there. Now, this is the first and only piece of footage ever captured of a living genus of squid called this. Just earlier this year, the Schmidt Ocean Institute led a team of oceanographers on an expedition to some of the remotest parts of the southeastern Pacific Ocean. During their month-long mission, they came across 20 never-before-seen species and another 80 that were observed in this part of the ocean for the first time. These squids have only ever been seen on the surface, i.e. they've been brought up in nets, dead. We've never seen one alive swimming around in its natural habitat, so this was pretty amazing to see. And there haven't even been that many specimens of these creatures either. It's such a rare genus that we've only had like a few specimens, and a lot of them came from the late 1800s. Sea cucumbers don't really sound all that scary, but I mean, just look at this one. This is what's called a brown-ringed sea cucumber, and it was just discovered. Scientists on a submarine were exploring the South China Sea when they spotted this small, reddish sea creature. It didn't quite look like anything they'd seen before, and as it turns out, it wasn't anything they'd seen before. It was found during a series of dives between 2018 and 2023, using a manned submersible. When the team surfaced and had a chance to study the creature, which had something like 20 tentacles and over 72 feet, they realized that they'd uncovered a new animal and gave it this crazy name that, again, I can't even begin to pronounce. AKA the brown-ringed sea cucumber, though. This new species of sea cucumber can grow to about 8 inches long and around 2 inches wide, and this wasn't all they found either. Yanlu Zhao and Haibin Zhang, part of the research team, also discovered 2 more new species of sea cucumber on the same expedition. Next up, we have another story that came out this past April about a new creature discovered off the southern tip of China. Just what is this thing? An ancient wood carving? Well, no, it's actually the shell of a living animal. A research team from China was exploring a deep sea area called the Haima Cold Seep off the coast of Hainan Island when their underwater robot picked up something from the sea floor. It was a shell, and at first the researchers didn't really think much of it, but once they took a closer look, they were like, well, actually, what exactly is this thing? The shell belonged to a type of mollusk known for living in extreme environments, like cold seeps. These are special areas on the seafloor where chemicals like methane and hydrogen sulfide leak up from the Earth's crust, creating this chemically rich water that only very specific life forms can survive in. This weird shell was just over 4 inches long and had a, quote, robust and rectangular shape. The mollusk's foot, the part that sticks out from the shell when it wants to move around, was described as large with an oval sole. But it was really the shape of the shell that made this thing so unique. It's the fact that it's rectangular. Other species' shells are usually curved inward on the ends. Just look at how gorgeous this snail is. On the coastlines of Japan, a tiny new species of sea creature has been found. Hiroshi Fukuda, a researcher and associate professor at Okayama University, first came across these rare snails over 30 years ago when he was still a student. They were actually relatively well known in Japan, but had never been formally documented until last year. Fukuda studied dozens of these snails and ended up naming them this. And luckily, it has a much easier to pronounce nickname, the strange dwarf snail. These snails are tiny, measuring less than 1/10 of an inch long, and Fukuda described these snails as bizarre. These things are small, but they move around quickly, crawling in step-like movements. Fukuda wrote in his paper that they're usually found crawling on muddy walls of earthworm and crab burrows, which might be why they were overlooked for such a long time. This strange-looking animal was discovered in an underwater cave. A team of researchers recently discovered a brand new species of hermit crab in a dark underwater cave in Japan, about 100 feet from the entrance. The 3-person team found this tiny critter in just about 3 feet of water. After carefully examining the male specimen, they realized they had come across a new species. This is its name, also called this. Not even the alternate name is easy to say. This new species is incredibly small though, measuring less than 1 centimeter long. Aw, that's cute. What really set it apart from other hermit crabs were its claws. They were described as strongly unequal and dissimilar. The right claw is moderately slender, the left claw is much smaller, only about half the size of the right one. And this last thing looks like it just hurts. There's like little spines and spikes on it. In March of 2021, researchers took a deep dive into the South China Sea using a manned submersible. During one of their dives, they came across a large crab sitting on some coral. They captured the creature and brought it back to study. Until then, this was a never-before-documented species, which was later dubbed Gordonopsis mazupo. Finally, a scientific name that I can actually get my lips around. But they're also known as Mazu's porter crab. This new species is considered pretty big for a crab. Its body is about 1.2 inches long, with legs stretching more than 3.5 inches. When you include its legs, the crab measures over 8 inches across in total. Its claws are especially interesting, described as blade-like. The researchers named it Gordonopsis mazupo after Mazu, the Chinese goddess or grandmother of the sea. And so far, only one of these things has ever been found.